The galactic court was filled with beings from all corners of the universe. Some had scales, others had tentacles, and a few floated in the air like gas clouds. They all gathered in the massive throne room to hear Emperor Zalthion V speak. The room sparkled with lights from 1,000 crystals embedded in the high ceiling. The Emperor sat on his crystal throne, his blue skin glowing softly under the light. His 4 eyes scanned the crowd. Everyone waited for him to speak. The Varaxian warriors stood guard around the throne, their massive bodies covered in ceremonial armor. They had protected the imperial family for thousands of years. "I have made a decision," the Emperor said. His voice echoed through the room. "I am dismissing the Varaxian Guard." The court gasped. Members of different species looked at each other in shock. The Varaxians were the strongest warriors in the galaxy. No one could believe what they were hearing. Ambassador Krixtal, leader of the Varaxian delegation, stepped forward. He was over 7 feet tall, with thick purple skin and 4 muscular arms. "Your Majesty, this cannot be. We have served the Imperial line since the founding of the Galactic Union. It is our sacred duty." The Emperor raised one of his 6-fingered hands. "My decision is final. I have chosen a new bodyguard, a human." The court erupted in noise. Aliens clicked, buzzed, and shouted in their own languages. Humans were new to the galactic community. They had only joined 50 years ago. Many species still thought of them as primitive. A door opened, and a human male walked in. He wore a simple dark suit instead of armor. He didn't have multiple arms or enhanced muscles. He wasn't even particularly tall. The human walked to the throne and bowed. "This is John Baker," the Emperor announced. "He will be my sole bodyguard from this day forward." Lady Talara of the Ethereal Consortium floated forward. Her translucent body shimmered like water. "Your Majesty, forgive my directness, but this is madness. Humans are unpredictable. They come from a chaotic world. How can you trust one with your life?" John Baker stood straight and looked at the floating lady. "With respect, Lady Talara, that chaos is exactly why the Emperor chose me." His voice was calm but carried through the room. The court quieted down to listen. Ambassador Krixtal's 4 fists clenched. "A human dares to speak in the Imperial Court without permission?" The Emperor smiled. "He has my permission. In fact, I want him to explain why I made this choice." John nodded. "Thank you, Your Majesty." He turned to face the court. "You say humans are unpredictable. You're right. We are. But that unpredictability comes from adaptability. We had to adapt or die on Earth. Our world tried to kill us every day with storms, predators, diseases, and disasters. We learned to expect the unexpected. A mechanical being from the collective whirred and clicked. Statistical analysis indicates humans have inferior physical capabilities compared to 73% of known sentient species." "That's true," John agreed. "I can't lift as much as a Varaxian. I can't process data like you can. But I can do something none of you can do. I can think sideways." "What does this nonsensical phrase mean?" demanded a crystalline entity from the Silicon Alliance. John walked to a decorative vase near the throne. "See this vase? You all see a container for flowers. I see 20 different weapons, 3 escape routes, and a potential shield." He pointed to the chandelier. "Those lights? To you, they're illumination. To me, they're potential falling hazards, sources of distraction, and emergency signaling devices." The court murmured. This was not how they thought. Ambassador Krixtal growled. "Pretty words, human, but can you fight? Can you stop an energy blast? Can you defeat a shapeshifter?" "I don't have to," John replied. "I just have to see it coming. First, and I always do." The Emperor leaned forward. "Tell them about the simulation." John nodded. "Last week, the Emperor had me go through the standard bodyguard evaluation. It's a holographic simulation with 50 different assassination scenarios. The record holder was a Varaxian who stopped 42 attempts. I stopped all 50. The court went silent. "Impossible," Krixtal roared. "You must have cheated." "No," the Emperor said. "He did something none of you would think to do. He analyzed the simulation chamber itself before starting. He found patterns in how the scenarios were generated. He predicted the attacks before they happened. John shrugged. On Earth we have a saying, it's not paranoia if they're really out to get you. Every human grows up learning to spot patterns that could mean danger. It's in our DNA. Lady Talara drifted closer. But you have no shields, no enhanced senses, no regenerative abilities. How can you protect the Emperor from real threats? Because I don't think like you do, John said. You all rely on your natural advantages. You've evolved to be perfect at one thing. The Varaxians are strong, the ethereals are psychic, the collective are logical. But humans? We had no advantages, so we learned to use everything around us. He picked up a serving spoon from a nearby table. This is just a spoon to you. To me, it's a reflective surface to check behind me. A tool to test for poison, a projectile weapon, and 17 other things. The Emperor stood. This is why I chose John Baker. In our ordered, specialized society, we have forgotten how to expect chaos. We have procedures for every situation. But our enemies know our procedures. They plan around them. John doesn't follow procedures. He creates new ones every moment. A small, furry ambassador from the Outer Rim spoke up. But Your Majesty, what about tradition? The Varaxians have served faithfully. And they will continue to serve the Empire, the Emperor said. But not as my personal guard. Times are changing. New threats emerge. We need new ways of thinking. Humans may be young to our galactic community, but they survived and thrived on a world that should have killed them. That's the kind of guardian I want. Ambassador Krikstal stepped forward once more. Your Majesty, I beg you to reconsider. Shame to my people. There is no shame in adapting to new realities, the Emperor replied. That is what humans have taught us. John Baker stays. My decision is final. The court buzzed with conversation. Some were outraged, others curious, many frightened. They watched the human who stood quietly beside the throne, his eyes constantly moving, observing everything and everyone. John Baker didn't look like much compared to the powerful beings in the room. He had no claws, no armor, no energy fields, but there was something in his stance and the way he watched the room that made even the bravest warriors uneasy. As the court session ended and the various aliens filed out, John remained by the Emperor's side. He had already memorized every face, noted every whispered conversation, and mapped every possible threat in the room. The Varaxian guards left their posts with barely concealed anger. The court officials muttered among themselves about unprecedented changes and dangerous precedents. But the Emperor seemed perfectly at ease with his new protector. In the days that followed, the news spread throughout the galaxy. The Emperor of the Galactic Union had chosen a human as his sole bodyguard. Some laughed at the absurdity. Others worried about what it meant for the established order. But those who truly understood power recognized something significant had happened. The most powerful being in the galaxy had looked at all the specialized warriors, psychics, and enhanced beings available to him, and chose a simple human instead. And that terrified them more than anything else. The grand banquet hall was filled with representatives from every major civilization in the galaxy. Floating tables held exotic foods from 100 worlds. Alien dignitaries in elaborate costumes mingled and talked politics. The Emperor sat at the high table, with John Baker standing quietly behind him. Many guests kept glancing at the human bodyguard. Some whispered jokes about the Emperor's strange choice. Others watched with curiosity. John seemed not to notice, but his eyes never stopped moving. 3 hours earlier, John had arrived at the banquet hall. While the servants set up decorations, he walked through every inch of the room. He tested the strength of the pillars, checked the ventilation systems, and examined the lighting fixtures. The staff thought he was being paranoid. They didn't understand that on Earth, this behavior kept people alive. As the banquet began, Ambassador Krikstal approached the Emperor's table. His 4 arms were crossed in a gesture of respect, but his eyes showed anger. Your Majesty, he said loudly enough for others to hear, surely you see the folly of your decision now. This human stands there like a statue. He has no combat stance, no defensive position. Any trained warrior could see he's unprepared. The Emperor smiled. Is that what you think, Ambassador? John stepped forward slightly. Ambassador Krikstal, may I ask you something? The Varaxian nodded stiffly. Why did you choose to approach from the left side of the room instead of the right? Krikstal blinked all four eyes. What difference does it make? The left side has fewer guests, easier movement. Also, the light from the windows creates shadows that hide your approach until the last moment. Smart tactical choice for someone planning something. Krikstal's purple skin darkened. I'm not planning anything. How dare you suggest? A soft hiss filled the air. From hidden vents in the ceiling, a pale green gas began to spread. Guests started coughing and choking. Panic erupted as aliens tried to flee. John had already placed small devices near the Emperor's chair. They activated instantly, creating a bubble of clean air around the throne. The Emperor remained safe while chaos exploded around them. Poison gas, John said calmly. Silothian nerve toxin, if I'm not mistaken. Fatal to most oxygen-breathing species within minutes. Security alarms blared. Guards rushed in wearing protective gear, but John was already moving. He pressed a button on his sleeve. Small drones he had hidden earlier flew out, spraying a neutralizing agent that cleared the air in seconds. Before anyone could recover from the gas attack, energy weapons fired from hidden panels in the walls. Blue bolts of deadly energy streaked toward the Emperor, but they never reached their target. John had positioned special mirrors at key points around the room hours ago. The energy beams bounced harmlessly away, redirected into reinforced sections of wall. Those panels weren't in the original building plans, John explained to the shocked Emperor. Someone installed them recently. I found them during my walkthrough. A scream echoed through the hall. One of the servers, a reptilian saurian, began to change. Its body twisted and warped. In seconds, it transformed into a mass of writhing tentacles with razor-sharp edges. A shapeshifter assassin. The creature lunged at the Emperor with incredible speed. But John was ready. He threw a small vial that shattered against the assassin. The liquid inside spread quickly over the creature's body. The shapeshifter writhed in pain. Its form became unstable, shifting rapidly between different shapes. Molecular stabilizer, John said. Earth scientists developed it to deal with unstable elements. Turns out it works on shapeshifters too. They can't change form when their molecules are locked in place. Security forces swarmed the immobilized assassin. The banquet hall slowly returned to order. Guests stared at John with new respect and, more than a little fear. Ambassador Krikstal stood frozen in place, his warrior pride shattered. In less than a minute, this human had dealt with 3 different types of attacks that would have challenged entire security teams. Lady Talara floated forward, her ethereal form flickering with agitation. How did you know? How could you prepare for such specific threats? John helped the Emperor to a safer location while he answered. I didn't know exactly what would happen, but I prepared for what could happen. The ventilation system was the obvious weakness for a gas attack. Energy weapons need power sources, so I looked for unusual energy signatures. As for the shapeshifter, well, on Earth we have a saying, trust but verify. I verified everyone's identity when they entered. That server didn't match his genetic scan from earlier. The Emperor nodded. Tell them about your preparations, John. I arrived 6 hours ago, John explained. I mapped every entrance, exit, and hiding spot. I tested air quality and installed filters. I placed sensors to detect energy weapons. I scattered mirrors to redirect potential laser fire. I prepared chemical compounds for various threats. I positioned emergency equipment throughout the room. I studied the guest list and identified potential risks. I monitored communication frequencies for suspicious activity. The crowd murmured in amazement. Such thorough preparation was unheard of in their specialized society. But that must have taken incredible effort, said a diplomatic aide from the inner systems. How can one person do all that? John shrugged. On Earth, we call it being prepared. When your world has hurricanes, earthquakes, predators, and diseases all trying to kill you, You learn to think ahead. You prepare for everything, because anything can happen. The Emperor raised his voice so all could hear. This is why I chose a human. Our specialized warriors are excellent at their specific roles, but they think in straight lines. John thinks in spirals, circles, and dimensions we don't even consider. He prepares for threats we haven't imagined. Crixtal finally found his voice. But he's just one human, he can't be everywhere. I don't need to be, John replied. I just need to think of everything before it happens. That's what humans do best. We imagine disasters and prepare for them. We see patterns where others see chaos. We find solutions where others see only problems. As the banquet hall was secured and the investigation began, John returned to his position behind the Emperor. His eyes continued their constant vigilance, already thinking about the next possible threat. The alien dignitaries looked at the human differently now. He wasn't just an oddity or a political statement. He was a new kind of guardian, one who used paranoia as a weapon and imagination as a shield. Ambassador Crixtal approached John one more time before leaving. I underestimated you, human. We all did. John nodded. That's exactly why the Emperor chose me. People always underestimate humans, it's our greatest advantage. As news of the failed assassination spread through the galaxy, discussions began on every world. The human bodyguard had done something remarkable. He hadn't just stopped an attack, he had anticipated and neutralized threats before they could fully materialize. In the quiet aftermath, the Emperor turned to John. They're beginning to understand now. Yes, Your Majesty. But this was just the first test. There will be more. Are you ready? John smiled slightly. I've been ready since I walked through the door. That's what humans do. We prepare for the worst and hope for the best. The Emperor nodded, satisfied. He had chosen well. In a universe of specialists, he had found the ultimate generalist, a being who could think beyond patterns, beyond procedures, beyond the limitations of evolutionary specialization. The court would never look at humans the same way again. 3 weeks after the banquet incident, Lady Talara visited the Imperial Palace for a private meeting with the Emperor. Her ethereal form floated through the crystal corridors, but her usual grace seemed troubled. She had questions that needed answers. As she entered the Emperor's private office, she found John Baker sitting at a small desk near the door. He was reading something on a datapad but looked up as she arrived. Lady Talara, he said, standing to greet her. The Emperor is expecting you. She nodded but paused to study the human. May I ask what you're reading? John showed her the screen. Maintenance reports for the palace systems, very boring stuff. Why would a bodyguard read maintenance reports? Because 3 days ago someone changed the frequency of the air recycling system by 0.2%. Tiny change. Most people wouldn't notice. But it could mean someone is testing our response times. Lady Talara's translucent form shimmered with surprise. Before she could respond, the Emperor called her into his office. An hour later, as the Lady Talara was leaving, alarms suddenly blared throughout the palace. John was instantly on his feet, moving to protect the Emperor. Psionic attack detected, the security system announced. All personnel seek shelter immediately. Lady Talara's form flickered wildly. Psionic attackers? Here, but the palace has the strongest mental shields in the galaxy. John was already typing commands into his wrist communicator. They're not breaching from outside. They're already inside. 3 of them, disguised as maintenance workers. I've been tracking them for days. The Emperor looked surprised. You knew? I suspected. The changes to the air system, unusual shift patterns, and 3 workers who appeared too perfect in their genetic scans. On Earth, we call it too good to be true. Suddenly, a wave of mental energy swept through the palace. Guards dropped to their knees, clutching their heads. Lady Talara screamed as her form began to dissolve. Even the Emperor winced in pain. But John remained standing, unaffected. How? Lady Talara gasped. The psionic attack is overwhelming everyone. John tapped his temple. Human brains evolved on a planet with chaotic electromagnetic fields. Solar flares, lightning storms, all sorts of natural interference. We developed natural resistance to mental intrusion. It's not immunity, but it's enough to keep functioning. Moved quickly to a wall panel and inserted a small device. Plus, I've been carrying this little gadget. It generates random thought patterns. Makes it harder for psionics to get a lock on my mind. The attackers burst into the room. 3 beings, wearing maintenance uniforms, their eyes glowing with psionic energy. They focused their power on John, expecting him to fall like the others. Instead, he smiled and pressed a button on his device. A high-pitched whine filled the air. The attackers screamed and collapsed. Psionic feedback loop, John explained. When they tried to probe my artificially scrambled thoughts, it reflected their own power back at them. Sometimes the best defense is making the enemy defeat themselves. As security teams arrived to arrest the unconscious attackers, Lady Talara stared at John with new understanding. This is what you meant about thinking sideways. You don't fight power with power. You use the enemy's strength against them. Exactly, John said, helping the Emperor to his feet. On Earth, we had to learn that lesson early. We couldn't outmuscle predators, so we outsmarted them. We couldn't survive disasters through strength alone, so we learned to adapt and improvise. The Emperor nodded. Show Lady Talara what else you've prepared. John led them to a security station. Multiple screens showed different views of the palace. But these weren't standard security feeds. I've created an entirely separate monitoring system, John explained. It tracks things the regular security doesn't consider. Unusual behavior patterns, slight changes in routine, minor fluctuations in power or environmental systems. I call it the paranoia network. Lady Talara studied the screens. This is remarkable. You're not just watching for threats, you're watching for the signs that come before threats. On Earth, we have weather forecasters who predict storms days in advance. I'm doing the same thing with security, looking for the small signs that something big is coming. She pointed to one screen showing a map with colored dots. What are these? Every person in the palace has a unique walking pattern, speed, stride length, how they turn corners. The dots show anyone whose pattern has changed in the last week. Could be injury, could be stress, or could be someone pretending to be someone else. You track everyone's walking pattern? The Emperor sounded amazed. And breathing rates, voice patterns, eating habits, sleep schedules. Humans are natural pattern recognizers. It's how our ancestors knew which rustling bush had a predator behind it. Lady Talara's form solidified as she regained her composure. I came here today to question your appointment, John Baker. I thought humans were too primitive, too chaotic for such a crucial role. I was wrong. John shrugged. Don't feel bad. Most species make that mistake. They see our lack of natural weapons, our relatively weak bodies, our short lifespans, and they assume we're inferior. They don't realize those limitations forced us to become something else entirely. What did you become? She asked. Survivors, adapters, problem solvers. We couldn't evolve better bodies, so we evolved better minds. Not smarter in the traditional sense, but more flexible, more creative, more paranoid. The Emperor spoke up. Tell her about the backup plans. John laughed. I have backup plans for my backup plans. Every security measure has redundancies. Every escape route has alternatives. Every defensive system has manual overrides. If something can go wrong, I've planned for it. If something can't go wrong, I've planned for it anyway. Lady Talara floated closer. This level of preparation must be exhausting. It's just normal for us. Earth taught us that everything breaks eventually. Weather changes, technology fails, people make mistakes. So we plan for failure. We expect problems. And when they happen, we're ready. As they talked, John continued monitoring his screens, his eyes never stopping their constant scan for anomalies. Lady Talara watched him work, beginning to understand why the Emperor had made such an unprecedented choice. The court still doesn't understand, she said. They see your success as luck or coincidence. Good, John replied. The more they underestimate humans, the more effective I can be. Let them think we're primitive. Let them believe we're just lucky. While they're busy feeling superior, I'll be busy keeping the Emperor safe." The Emperor smiled. "This is why I chose him, Lady Talara. Not just for his skills, but for his mindset. In a galaxy of specialized creatures who excel at one thing, humans excel at everything because they expect nothing to work as planned." Lady Talara prepared to leave, but turned back one last time. "John Baker, I will inform the court of what I've learned today. Some will listen, others won't. But I believe you may be the most dangerous being in this palace." "Dangerous to the Emperor's enemies," John corrected. "That's the only kind of dangerous I need to be." After she left, the Emperor looked at his human bodyguard. "They're beginning to understand, but they're also becoming afraid." "Fear can be useful, Your Majesty. It makes people cautious. And cautious people make fewer attempts on your life. But it also makes them desperate. And desperate people do unpredictable things." John nodded. "I know. That's why I'm already planning for what they might do when they get desperate enough." The Emperor shook his head in amazement. "Always thinking ahead. Always preparing. Is there ever a moment when you're not planning for disaster?" "No, Your Majesty. Because the moment you stop preparing for disaster is the moment it happens. That's the most important lesson Earth ever taught us." Council member Vexthor sat in his private chambers surrounded by holographic displays showing various parts of the Imperial Palace. His reptilian features twisted in frustration as he watched yet another feed of the human bodyguard. 3 assassination attempts all failed, he hissed to his co-conspirators gathered in the room. "This human sees everything. We need a new approach." A shadowy figure in the corner spoke up. "The human's strength is his unpredictability, but perhaps that can be used against him." Vexthor's forked tongue flicked out. "Explain." "We make him see threats everywhere, overwhelm his human paranoia until he makes a mistake." The conspirators began planning their most ambitious attack yet. 2 days later, John Baker noticed something odd. Small things were out of place all over the palace. A cleaning drone moved slightly differently. A guard blinked too often. The kitchen staff prepared meals 3 minutes faster than usual. "Your Majesty," John said during their morning security briefing, "something's happening. Too many small anomalies. It's like someone is trying to trigger every alarm I've set up." The Emperor frowned. "A distraction? Maybe. Or they're testing my responses, looking for patterns in how I react." John pulled up his monitoring systems. Red dots appeared everywhere. "They're good. Very good. They've created hundreds of small irregularities." Suddenly alarms blared. Reports flooded in of attacks from every direction. Intruders in the east. Wing. Power failures in the south. Chemical contamination in the water system. Unauthorized ships approaching, all happening simultaneously. Security teams scrambled to respond to each threat. Chaos erupted throughout the palace. But John didn't move. He stood perfectly still, eyes closed. "John?" The Emperor looked concerned. "Shouldn't you be coordinating the response?" John opened his eyes. "No, Your Majesty, this is wrong. All wrong." He pulled up a different screen. "Look at this. Every single one of my security triggers is going off. Every single one. That's not an attack. That's theater." He quickly typed commands. "I'm ignoring all automated alerts, going to manual observation only." The screens cleared, then showed simple video feeds. "There," John pointed. "Third sub-level maintenance tunnel. See that worker? He's moving too carefully, like he's trying not to be noticed." John activated his communicator. "Security. Ignore all other alerts. Converge on maintenance tunnel 3C. Armed response authorized." As guards rushed to the location, John explained, "They flooded us with false alarms, hoping I'd be too busy managing the chaos to notice the real threat. But they made one mistake." "What mistake?" the Emperor asked. "They assumed I'd trust my own systems completely. But humans don't trust anything completely. Not even ourselves." In the maintenance tunnel, security forces caught Vexthor and 5 other conspirators planting explosives directly beneath the throne room. They had counted on John being distracted by the multiple fake emergencies. Brought before the Emperor in chains, Vexthor snarled at John. How did you know? We triggered every alarm, created perfect chaos. You should have been overwhelmed. John smiled grimly. You tried to use my paranoia against me, but you don't understand human paranoia. It's not just about seeing threats. It's about questioning everything, including our own perceptions. When everything looks wrong, we look for what's really wrong. The interrogation of Vexthor revealed the full scope of the conspiracy. Dozens of high-ranking officials from multiple species had united against humanity's growing influence. They saw humans as chaotic elements disrupting the established order. They fear us, John told the Emperor later. Not because we're strong, but because we're unpredictable. We don't follow the rules they've built their society on. The Emperor nodded. Show me what else you found. John pulled up files on his secure terminal. The conspiracy goes deeper than we thought. They've been planning this for years, ever since humans joined the Galactic Union. They see our adaptability as a threat to their specialized roles in society. Because we make their specialization less valuable? Exactly. Why hire a Varaxian warrior, a psychic ethereal, and a logic collective when one human can do all their jobs reasonably well? We're not the best at anything, but we're good enough at everything. The Emperor studied the files. What do you recommend? Something they won't expect. Instead of arrests and executions, we offer them a demonstration. The next day, the Emperor called an emergency session of the full Galactic Council. Representatives from every major civilization attended, including those implicated in the conspiracy. I have learned of a plot against my life, the Emperor announced. A conspiracy born of fear of humans and what they represent. Murmurs filled the chamber. Many looked nervous. But I will not respond with violence. Instead, I offer understanding. John Baker, please demonstrate why humans are valuable allies, not threats. John stepped forward. Distinguished representatives, you fear humans because we're different. We don't specialize like you do. But let me show you why that's a strength, not a weakness. He set up a series of challenges. Complex puzzles requiring different types of thinking. Physical tasks needing various abilities. Social scenarios demanding adaptability. Each of you excels at one type of challenge, John explained. But watch what happens when I combine them. He moved through the challenges, not mastering any single one, but competently handling all of them. When physical strength failed, he used tools. When logic puzzles stumped him, he found creative workarounds. When social rules confused him, he asked questions and learned. This is what humans bring to the galaxy, John concluded. We're not replacing anyone, we're connecting everyone. We bridge the gaps between your specialized abilities. We find solutions when standard approaches fail. We adapt when situations change. The Emperor stood. The conspiracy is pardoned, on one condition. Each of you must work with a human advisor, for 1 year. Learn from them. Understand them. See them not as threats, but as partners. Many in the council looked shocked, but slowly they began to nod. Even some conspirators seemed relieved at this unexpected mercy. Later, in private, the Emperor asked John, "Why did you suggest pardons instead of punishment?" Because punishment would confirm their fears. They'd see us as dangerous outsiders, imposing our will. But by forcing them to work with humans, we show them we're not here to conquer or replace. We're here to help everyone work together better. You continue to surprise me, John Baker. I expected a warrior. I got a diplomat. John laughed. On Earth, the best warriors know when not to fight. Sometimes the most powerful weapon is understanding. Besides, pardoned conspirators make better allies than martyred enemies. As news of the pardon spread, something unexpected happened. Other civilizations began requesting human advisors, not as warriors or guards, but as problem solvers and mediators. The very adaptability that had frightened them now intrigued them. You've changed the galaxy's perception of humans, the Emperor observed. No, Your Majesty. I've helped them see what humans really are. Not conquerors or chaos bringers, but adapters and connectors. We don't break the established order. We help it evolve. The conspiracy had been defeated not by force but by demonstration. Fear had been replaced by curiosity. And in that moment, humans found their true place in the galactic community, not as outsiders threatening the system, but as the flexible joints that helped the whole body move more smoothly. 6 months after the conspiracy was uncovered, the Imperial Palace bustled with activity. John Baker stood in the grand courtyard, watching as 30 humans from Earth arrived for training. They were the first class of the Human Guard Corps, handpicked from Earth's various military and security services. The Emperor joined John as the new recruits assembled. "Are you ready for this new responsibility?" John nodded. "Teaching others what I do naturally will be interesting, but the galaxy needs more humans who think like we do." The recruits stood at attention as John addressed them. "Welcome to the Imperial Palace. You're here because you demonstrated something special during selection. Not strength, not speed, not intelligence, though you have those too. You're here because you can think sideways." A young woman named Lisa Chen raised her hand. "Sir, what exactly does thinking sideways mean?" "Good question. Let me show you instead of telling you." John led them to a training room with a locked door. "Your task is simple. Get through this door." The recruits examined the door. Some tried to pick the lock. Others looked for hidden panels. A few attempted to break it down. After 20 minutes, none had succeeded. "Stop," John said. He walked to a window, opened it, climbed out, walked along the building's edge, and entered through another window behind the door. He opened it from the inside. Thinking sideways means the door isn't the only way into the room. It means looking at problems from angles others don't consider. That's what you'll learn here. Over the next weeks, John trained the recruits in human-style security thinking. They learned to question everything, trust nothing completely, and prepare for the impossible. They studied pattern recognition, improvised weapons, psychological, manipulation, and creative problem-solving. The alien staff watched these training sessions with fascination and concern. Humans crawled through ventilation ducts, turned kitchen utensils into defensive tools, and practiced deceiving security scanners. Ambassador Krikstal, now serving as a liaison officer, approached John during one session. "This training seems more like preparing criminals than guards." John smiled. "That's exactly the point. To catch a criminal, you need to think like one. To stop an assassin, you need to know how an assassin thinks. Humans are good at this because we've been both predator and prey throughout our evolution. As the training progressed, requests for human security advisors poured in from across the galaxy. Planetary governors, corporate leaders, and diplomatic missions all wanted humans on their security teams. "We've become fashionable," the Emperor noted during a meeting. "More than that," John replied. "We've become necessary. The assassination attempts have dropped significantly since word spread about human security methods. Potential attackers are hesitating because they can't predict what we'll do." One day, an urgent message arrived from the Outer Rim. A colony was under attack by raiders using unknown technology. Standard defenses had failed. They begged for human assistance. "This is your final test," John told the recruits. "Real situation, real danger. Who volunteers?" Every hand went up. John selected 5 recruits and led them to the besieged colony. When they arrived, they found chaos. Energy shields fluctuated randomly. Communications were jammed. Traditional weapons malfunctioned. "Standard protocols are useless here," the colony commander despaired. "We don't understand their technology," John observed for a moment. "We don't need to understand their technology. We need to understand their behavior." He turned to his team. "What do you see?" Lisa Chen pointed out patterns in the attacks. Another recruit noticed environmental factors being exploited. Together they pieced together the raiders' strategy. "They're not using advanced technology," John concluded. "They're using our technology against us. They've hacked our own systems to create chaos." Instead of trying to fix the compromised systems, the human team did something unexpected. They shut down all advanced technology and reverted to primitive methods: manual weapons, physical barriers, and direct communication. The raiders, who had relied on technological superiority, were caught completely off guard. Their advantages disappeared when faced with humans using basic tools and unpredictable tactics. Within hours, the colony was secure. The raiders, captured and unmasked, turned out to be a group of tech-savvy criminals who had never faced opponents willing to abandon technology entirely. News of the human team's success spread quickly. More colonies requested human security advisors. The Emperor decided to formalize the program. In a grand ceremony, John stood beside the Emperor as the Human Guard Corps was officially established. Representatives from every major civilization attended. "Today marks a new era," the Emperor announced. "Humans have shown us that true security comes not from strength or technology alone, but from adaptability and creative thinking. The Human Guard Corps will serve not just the Empire, but all who request their unique skills." John addressed the assembly. "Humans aren't replacing traditional security forces. We're complementing them. Where they're strong, we're flexible. Where they're specialized, we're adaptable. Together, we create security systems that can handle any threat." After the ceremony, Lady Talara approached John. "You've changed everything. The galaxy no longer fears human unpredictability. They rely on it." "That was always the goal," John replied. "Fear comes from misunderstanding. Once people understood that our chaos serves a purpose, that our paranoia keeps everyone safer, they stopped being afraid." The Emperor joined them. "What's next for you, John?" "Training more humans, adapting our methods for different species, and staying one step ahead of whatever new threats emerge. The galaxy's a big place with lots of ways for things to go wrong." "Still as paranoid as ever," the Emperor laughed. "Always. Your Majesty, it's kept you alive so far." As the sun set on the Imperial Palace, John watched his recruits mingle with alien security forces, sharing ideas and techniques. Varaxian warriors learned to think creatively. Ethereal psionics practiced physical security measures. Logic Collective members explored illogical solutions. The human approach was spreading, not replacing other methods but enriching them. The galaxy was becoming more secure not through uniformity, but through diversity of thought. Ambassador Crixtall, once John's strongest critic, now worked alongside humans daily. "I never thought I'd say this," he told John, "but your species may be the best thing to happen to galactic security in millennia." "We're just getting started," John replied. "Wait until you see what we come up with next." The age of specialized security forces hadn't ended. It had evolved. Humans hadn't conquered the galaxy through strength or technology. They had changed it through flexibility, creativity, and a healthy dose of paranoia. In a universe of order and predictability, chaos had found its place and everyone was safer for it. As John returned to his duties, he smiled at the irony. The galaxy's most advanced civilizations had learned their greatest security lesson from a species they once considered primitive. Sometimes, he thought, the best way to protect order is with a little controlled chaos, and humans were very good at chaos.